Hi, my name is Natalie Green. I'm the owner and creator of MyBlackHeritage.com, and thanks for tuning into my video. On today's video, I'm going to talk about how books and newspaper articles can be really helpful sometimes to your research. Also going to talk about marriage licenses and all of the information you can obtain to help find more ancestors when you're researching. So as I said before, I've been dubbed the hip-hop genealogist, and one of the reasons why is because I've had several hip-hop clients. The one who I'm going to use today to show examples of how books and newspapers are really helpful to discovering new information is the one and only Lord Jamar. Aside from being a legendary MC, Lord Jamar is an actor, a producer, and an outspoken commentator. So don't forget to check out his Godcast and to subscribe to his YouTube channel today. It was a lot of fun working with Lord Jamar on his research. One, because I've been a super fan for a long time, and second was how excited he was to learn so much about his family. One of the first interesting finds was that Jamar's maternal grandfather, Joseph de Fawcett, was a part of the 369th Infantry Regiment, also known as the Harlem Hellfighters. As we continued to research this legendary infantry regiment, we discovered that not only Jamar's grandfather was part of it, but so was his grandfather's brother William. So once we had that information, the newspaper articles, books, and magazine articles that we found just opened up a whole new world for the research. From articles in Jet and Ebony magazine to newspaper clippings from the New York Age newspaper in Harlem, we got so much information about this family, it was like they were coming to life before our very eyes. Birth and wedding announcements gave us names of other ancestors that we may not have known otherwise. We found out how they served their community in Harlem after the war. We also discovered something truly amazing about Jamar's great-uncle William K. de Fawcett. William de Fawcett was the first African American to be assigned as a special agent for the U.S. Department of State's Office of Security. He also served as president of the 369th Infantry Regiment's Veterans Association. So be sure to utilize research tools like newspapers, magazines, and books. Sometimes they provide insight about family members that you wouldn't have gained otherwise. Simply knowing their birth date or date of death doesn't really tell you about the person who they were. So if you're lucky enough to have an ancestor who is featured in a magazine or news article, it could be very cool to find out things that you wouldn't have otherwise known. I will say, however, to proceed with caution, because sometimes if you do find articles, they're not always good news. I've seen articles from anywhere to someone owing taxes or their land getting repossessed to murderers. So, just proceed with caution and hopefully you'll find some information, good information, about your ancestors. The good news is that there are so many resources online to do this that you can simply Google some of your ancestors and they may come up in Google Books or the news. Or if you get a subscription to newspapers.com, there's a wealth of information that can be found if indeed your ancestors were in a newspaper. So to shift gears really quick, I want to talk about marriage licenses and the amount of information that you can get from those that could be extremely helpful to your research. So if I wasn't lucky enough to have had Lord Jamar as one of my clients, I was equally as lucky to have the pleasure to do some research for one of his partners from the legendary group of Brand Nubian, Sadat X. Sadat X is a fierce MC, an educator, and a true wine connoisseur. So go and check him out on social media to see what he's up to, and be sure to pick up his latest LP, The Son of a Man. So in this particular example, one marriage license was able to open a pathway to discover a dozen new ancestors and go up several generations. And let me preface this by saying not all marriage licenses and records are the same, so you won't always be as lucky to get this much information. North Carolina happened to keep really good records, as well as some other states, so we got lucky here. So when I'm researching, one of my first goals is to go as high up the family tree as I can before I start fleshing out the details of everyone I found. For Sadat, I found 6 of his 8 great-grandparents, and by using the marriage records, I was able to find 12 of his 16 second great-grandparents. For the purpose of this video, I'll show you how I was able to find 4 of them by looking at some marriage licenses. So one set of Sadat's great-grandparents were Jack and Cleo Williams, and after reviewing their marriage license, I was able to identify their parents as Isaac and Catherine Williams and Joe and Ella Morgan. So just that quick, I was able to find 4 more people to research. and my next step was to find Isaac and Catherine's marriage license and Joe and Ella's marriage license. And sure enough, after finding those, I was able to locate 8 more ancestors. So following this method, I was able to go up several generations for Sadat and fill in the blanks of so many names of ancestors on his tree. So utilizing marriage records can prove to be a very effective tool, especially if you're researching formerly enslaved ancestors. For instance, if you had a set of ancestors who were married around 1865, their marriage license may be one of the first documents where you ever see their parents' names listed. Aside from there, maybe the death certificates, which we'll get into at another time, the marriage license can hold some really valuable information. So in closing, be sure to look up your ancestors in magazines, newspapers, and books because you never know what you might find. Additionally, use those marriage licenses to get as much information as you can about your ancestors. So quick shout out and thank you to both Lord Jamar and Sadat X of Brand Nubian for letting me share part of their family trees to give you guys examples of how various research tools can possibly help you. In the meantime, always feel free to email me directly at ngreen@myblackHeritage.com, and if you have any questions or concerns, I'll be glad to answer them. In the meantime, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all soon.